Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello.
And thank you all for taking time out of your schedule to come to the Mathews-Oct Entrepreneur Group Business Book Mathews Entrepreneur Group Inc. book signing for author Michael Bart Mathews. Just to kind of give you guys an idea of what we've been up to lately. Our book actually was officially released in May 2016 at the Book Expo at McCormick Place. And during that expo, Michael had an opportunity to be interviewed by the CEO of the Independent Book Publishing Association, Angela Boyle. So our video of him is out there on the internet. So if you Google Michael Bart Mathews, you'll be able to pull up any of the interviews or training sessions that we will be conducting over time. Also, we had the privilege of having Ms. Carolyn Chase, who's a Harvard grad, a master's of teaching at Harvard. She actually did the book review, one of the book reviews for us, and she provided comments in the book that she felt it was very educational and beneficial to everyone, considering we're trying to promote financial literacy across the country. We also had the opportunity and the privilege of conducting a book signing in Washington, D.C. at the Historical Metropolitan AME Church. That was a very eye-opening and rewarding experience to kind of walk in the shoes of history. And we were also there for the new opening of the African American Cultural Museum, which is beautiful. So I encourage you to take your families to go and experience a unique part of African American history. We were also interviewed by Leroy Mack, who happens to be vacationing right now in the Dominican. He is Michelle Reed's partner here at Safe Money Expert. And Michelle's going to speak a little bit about what they do here in regards to retirement planning, because it's very important that either if you are not retired yet or are retired, you have some options that you can consider. So she'll just kind of give you a few tidbits related to that. We also recently had the opportunity to interview Coach Mike Ditka and talk about the benefits of financial literacy education for our young professional athletes. And he had quite a bit to say about that. So that interview is also out there. If you Google Mike, that interview with Mike Ditka is also out there as well. So we've been a little busy. Lastly, we both received our life coaching certification this year as well, because our goal is to kind of help as many people as we can become financially independent through education. Okay. So for today, what we're going to do, Michael's going to come up and talk to you a little bit about what he's been doing and talk a little bit about the book, give you some insights as to why he wrote the book and things like that. I'll come back up and I'm going to give you some tidbits, because one of the things we want to make sure that you can take some things away from here that would be beneficial to you. So I'm going to give you some of our financial keys that you can actually put into practice. Michelle's going to come up and talk a little bit, like I said, about what they do here, and you can schedule an appointment with her. There's no obligation to anything, but you'll have the opportunity to learn more about other retirement options that you may not be aware of. And then I'll come back and wrap up, and then we'll have the book signing. The books are on sale today. They're $15. That's 24% off the retail price if you would go online and try to order it. And we also have a free online program that we can sign you up for today. It's a companion to the book, where it will take your financial literacy education to another level. It's called Financially Fit, and it's completely free. There's exercises, videos that you can take. We don't have any access to that information that you put in. It's strictly contained within your computer, and it's for your own education and understanding. Okay? So without further ado, I would like to introduce author Michael Bart Mathews. Financially speaking, the best improvement starts with self-improvement. Create your own economic stimulus plan. Michael mentioned was changing the way you act and feel about money. It has to start with your mindset, because you have to be willing and ready to make some changes and be open-minded to making some changes in your life. So a couple of things we want to share with you is some of the current thinking versus how it's different if you have a more personal finance mindset. My grandson went to college, and before he left, I asked him a question. I said, do you know the difference between a debit and a credit? He said, yeah, Grandma. He's like, well, a debit, lowers your balance, and a credit increases your balance. And your debit's supposed to equal your credits. And I said, that is the correct answer if you want to get an A in accounting. But in personal finances, if your debits equal your credits, you're broke. Total different mindset. So you can't have an accounting mindset when you're talking about personal finances. So if your debits are less than your credits, then you're really broke and you're in a negative situation. If your credits are greater than your debits, then you have some positive cash flow, some positive money, and there's things that you can do with that to further enhance. So you got to change that mindset about debits and credits and even pass that on to our children, because that's what they're being taught about debits and credits, that they're supposed to equal, and the accounts are in balance. That's not correct for personal finances. Another misnomer is what we call the 40-40-40 routine. So you work 40 hours a week for 40 years to live off 40% of your income. That's how we've been programmed over years. Work, get that good job, get that good government job, work, get your pension, get your Social Security, and then you can retire. That's not the same anymore. Retirement, Social Security, that's questionable. Where that's gonna go, you can't live off of Social Security today. You could, maybe 20 years ago when our parents were able to get Social Security, you could probably live off of that. You can't live off of that. So you have to do something in addition to that. So you have to change your mindset regarding retirement. As Michael mentioned, retirement is not about age. It's about money. If you have enough money in your portfolio, your assets are paying for you to live, then you can retire at any age. Both Mike and I are retired. He's been retired 4 years, I've been retired for 2 years, because our assets are able to take care of us. We're not old enough to draw Social Security. By the time we're old enough to draw Social Security, assuming it is still there, then that's just supplemental income. We could probably be in the Dominican like Leroy is right now, in the Dominican enjoying himself. We can use that for travel money. We can use that to donate back to the community, or whatever our choice is. It's not our dependency to live off of. So that's the mindset change, and that's what we have to start passing down to our children as well. The other thing, estate planning. Who in here has an estate plan? Bad. Everything you can own of value is an estate. It has nothing to do with whether you're rich. It has to do with what you have worked hard for and who you want to get those assets if something happens to you. And it's not just about death, it's about disability. Don't want to be glum, but you all could leave here today and get in a car accident and be in a coma. Who's going to take care of your children or your grandchildren? Who's going to take care of your assets? I can tell you, I know who's going to do it. The state of Illinois is going to do it, because they're going to step in if you don't have any will or estate plan or a living trust. They will step in and say who's going to manage your assets, who's going to take care of your children. And if some people have children that are trustworthy, some people don't. Okay? So you need to keep that in mind. It doesn't take much, it doesn't cost much for you to sit down and write out on a piece of paper, have it notarized, who do you want to take care of you and your assets if something happens. People, please get an estate plan. We have access to an attorney who does that for a living. He does that. His name is Rob Sapotlis, and he's on the radio all the time. He does that. It's not that hard, and it's worth the money, because it's going to cost your family and your estate more tomorrow if you go out today and have an accident and you're in a coma, and no one can, and you can't speak for yourself. So they're gonna have to go to court, they're gonna have to get an attorney, and do all that to cost just to get money out of your bank account, okay? So please, if you don't do anything, you don't take anything away from here today, besides the book, take that with you and do something about it, okay? So really, the goal is, those are just some things to think about. One other thing, debit, who knows the difference between credit and debt? Okay, what's the difference?
Well, I have to answer it?
Yes, you do.
I guess your credit is your ability to borrow, and debt is what you actually have borrowed.
Okay. No, wrong answer.
I didn't want to answer.
Okay.
I knew that.
But I wanted you to answer the question because that's how we've been trained.
Right.
The right answer is credit and debt are exactly the same thing. They are identical. There is no difference. There's no such thing as the ability to borrow. It's your ability to go into debt. And every time you swipe that credit card, you're not buying something on credit, you're going into debt. Change your thought process. Because if you change your thought process, every time you get ready to swipe, you're like, okay, I was $500 in debt. Now I'm $600 in debt. I'm $1,000 in debt. Okay? Change the thought process. So then you're going to think twice before you swipe. Don't become a swipe addict. Think about it. What am I doing? Going into debt. Do I really need to have this at this moment in time? Think about it. Change your mindset. Okay? This information is in the book and it helps to reinforce that. The other thing, Mike mentioned, do you know your numbers? Some of you raise your hand, do you know your net worth? Those that didn't raise their hands, if you don't know your net worth, then how do you know what to fix? It's like you take your car in and get it checked up, right? You go and look at the oil and all that, and they give you a printout, here's all the things that's wrong with your car, and here's how much it's gonna cost, right? But why don't you do that about your life and your debt? Do you know how much your assets are? Do you know how much your debts are? Do you know what your bottom line is? Are you positive? Are you negative? Because those things matter. Credit score, we talked about that. Everybody knows about credit scores. But one thing to teach your children about credit score is that for those, their GPA today is their credit score. My other granddaughter asked, why did people, when she was applying for a job, she asked why they wanted to know their credit score. So what I did was I made an analogy between her GPA. So with your GPA, that's the only way that they can judge you as one student to another. So if you got a 4.0, 3.8 versus someone that's got a 2.0, who's gonna get the job? Who's gonna get the scholarship? The one with the higher GPA. Same thing with credit score. The one with the higher credit score most likely will get the better interest rates, or even when you go look for a job, they're gonna look at your credit score to see if you are able to manage money, especially if you're working in any kind of financial institution, working in a bank, working in a store around money. They wanna know if you are in debt. Because if you're in debt, you may be a liability, all right? So those numbers are important. Keep your GPA up, keep your credit score up, because credit score can cost you money. Just an example, the difference between the difference between a 750 credit score and say a 500 credit score? About $9,000 if you go buy a car. The interest rate difference, you're gonna spend probably $9,000 more for that car.
See, I was going to say interest rate.
Interest rate.
You made
But it's dollars.
a.
Think about it in terms of dollars and cents.
Right.
That makes a difference. Yeah, well, I get this interest rate. I get a 5, 6, 7, 8% interest rate versus a 1, 2, 3 interest rate. Well, what does that mean? That means I'm going to pay $9,000 more. Think about it in terms of money. Okay. Mike talked about health. Part of what we're advocating is don't just think about money. Think about it from a health perspective. If you go and get your regular checkups, get your PSA in, get that checked out, okay? Because prevention costs a whole lot more than treatment. I just had my mammogram, lady. And it hurt. But when they give me that good, clean bill of health, I feel better. go get that check. Know what your blood pressure is. So if you know what your blood pressure is, you can change the way you eat. So you're not on blood pressure medication, which you have to pay for. So those things affect your finances. So don't separate the two. Well, I gotta take this blood pressure medicine. Well, yeah, if you maybe change the way you eat a little bit, that money you're paying on blood pressure medicine could be used to pay off a credit card or, pay down your mortgage or something, okay? And understand what fees you're paying on your investments. If you have investments, call up your investment advisor and say, what fees am I paying? Which means that's how much money you're saving. Maybe you need to find another investment advisor that's charging you less fees, but is doing a better job. Research. Look at what's happening in your life. I called the cable company the other day because one of the things we advocate is what we call a 7-point checkup. Check your rates on your mortgage. Check your rates on your credit cards. Check your rates on your cable bill. Check your rates on anything, everything. I was looking at my cable bill and was like, this is still too high. So I called them up and said, hey, I've been a loyal customer for however long, many years. What can you do to reduce my bill and keep my same level of service? I saved $80 just from one phone call a month. They reduced my cable bill. Pick up the phone. If you got a credit card, call them up. How many of you have ever got a 0 rate interest credit card in the mail? Offer. Okay, and then what you do with them? You throw them away? Whew.
No, I review them and see if I can transfer any of mine.
There you go. Good answer. Good answer. You review them and transfer, but the other thing, you cut them up. They're not for use. They're only for transfer and pay down. Don't use them. Because, okay, 0 card.
Right.
Add more to it. No. Be disciplined, be focused. So I'm gonna leave you with 5 core things that you need to create your own economic stimulus plan, because that's what the book is for. You need to create a plan. It's not gonna happen if you don't sit down, put the numbers together, husband and wives, significant others, sit down together and do this, right? So the first thing is you need to educate yourself. Learn what your financial numbers are, learn what your physical numbers are, and what's the importance of those. Make a commitment to yourself and to your family to make some changes. You gotta make that commitment. List all your income sources, list all your debts with the interest rates, the time that you have to pay, how much time you have left, list all that. List all your assets, and then calculate your monthly cash flow and your net worth. And then depending on what you find, you can, if you got positive, you got money left over, then accelerate pay down on those debts. Or start saving more. Whichever, if you got a few debts, then start saving more. Okay? If you have a negative cash flow, then you gotta make some cuts. You gotta cut some things out to start getting extra money. Give yourself a raise. Cut out something. For example, we did our checkup and dumped all of our checking. We did a spending checkup. Dumped all of our checking account transactions, our credit account transactions, sorted them by type. How much we spending on food and clothes and mortgage and blah blah blah, all that stuff. Sorted it up, totaled it up. Then this was July. I did a 7-month checkup. We found that in 7 months, I'm almost embarrassed to say this.
Me too.
7 months, we spent $7,000 on food.
Oh yeah.
In 7 months.
Outside the house, not counting the groceries.
And I was like, okay, this is not right. My formula has got to be wrong. I summed up too many columns. But I went back and I hand added every single one of those numbers. And it was $7,000 that we were spending. So that's $1,000 a month we were eating out. Lessons, Chili's, Applebee's, Portillo's, restaurants, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So because we knew it, we saw it, we then were able to make some changes. That was like cut drastically. It's like, we're not doing this. But if you don't know, if you don't look at your numbers, you don't know what's going on. Okay, so that's the main thing. Take a look at the numbers.